Do you remember this white box? This white cardboard coffin-shaped box that would show up in your mailbox as a kid? And inside was a brand new action figure. Maybe a Star Wars action figure. That was an emotional high. I think this was best captured in pop culture on the early Simpson episode, Homer's Night Out, when Bart orders a spy camera, and when the mail woman, postal worker, comes up to the to the door, and Bart's just saying, "Where's my spy camera? Where's my spy camera?" And she starts yelling that back at him because that's what it was like. It was like every day, "Where is it? Where is it? When's it going to come? When's it going to come?" This was a very unique emotional connection to getting a toy. The joy of running out to your mailbox, opening it up, looking inside, and there was this little white box, and inside was a brand new figure. You didn't need to go to the store, you didn't need to wait for your birthday. It just came to you. So why do companies do mail-away figures? Where did this trend come from, and why has it kind of gone away? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Scott ToyGuru Neitlich. I've worked in the toy industry for about 20 years, but I'm also a collector, and I'm going to share some insight with you. So let's talk about mail-away figures in general. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a figure when I say a mail-away figure. Kenner notoriously also did this great accessory pack for Empire Strikes Back that came with Yoda's, or well, Luke's backpack for Yoda, and some Hoth backpacks, some rifles and blasters, things that you actually couldn't get with regular figures. And it complemented your collection, if you will. It was the only way you could have Yoda actually on Luke's back, the only way to get the little blue backpack. Now, of course, going even farther back with Star Wars, there was the original 4 early bird figure pack. Now, the reason this was a mail-away figure was because Kenner couldn't get figures out in time for the movie because of the toy-making process, which takes 1 to 3 years. So because of the lag there, they put out certificates and you'd mail away and get the first 4 figures. So that was kind of a different reason for doing mail away. That was much more about first to market, getting figures out quickly. This would never really happen today, because toys are designed in sync with movies. And then continuing, and I promise not everything's going to be about Star Wars, there was, of course, the Boba Fett missile-firing figure that never happened due to safety reasons. But this kept going with Star Wars. The idea of doing a mail-away figure was actually something that carried through in almost the entire line, where every year, every 6 months, they would refresh, and there would be a new figure that you could get by mailing away proof of purchase points. And in your mailbox, you would get that little white coffin box, and inside a poly bag would be a brand new figure that wasn't at retail yet. And that was amazing. I mean, this was an amazing experience as a kid getting this. And it wasn't just Star Wars. I promised I'm not just going to talk about Star Wars in this video. Other brands had this too, and continuing along the Kenner path, they also applied this same concept to the Superpowers line, and the only way to get Clark Kent was mail away. He was actually never released on a card, unlike some of those Star Wars figures like the Emperor and even Anakin eventually got released on a single card. Now, switching gears to other brands, Masters of the Universe is also notorious for this. There's the whole Wondar figure. You can see the whole video on him about his notorious mail-away origins. But let's talk about the 2000X Motu Mossman figure and why this was done. So this was a figure done in order to clear out retail stock. Mattel noticed that there was just too much stock at retail, too many basic figures. So they offered the Mossman figure because, one, it was an easy development. It was just Flock on Beastman as an homage to the vintage line, and you had to mail in a few proof of purchases and receipts for buying basic figures at retail. And a lot of fans complained, oh, but there's no new figures at retail for me to buy right now. Well, for Mattel, that was kind of the whole point, is they wanted to clear out everything at retail in order to get the next wave in. So it's kind of one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't things. Fans had to now rebuy some figures they may already have to have gotten the Mossman figure. And Mattel even said this didn't limit them from doing Mossman later on, which they never did in 2000X. But that was why they offered him as that mail-in figure. It was to clear shelves, as opposed to I mean, it was a reward for fans, but it was mainly a shelf clearing maneuver, which is why there were no new figures available to buy when you were being requested to buy new figures. Kind of ironic. Other lines got the mail away figure sort of package with Toy Fair magazine. So Toy Fair magazine, which I can think in a lot of ways channels like this one and others on YouTube have kind of replaced that. Well, Toy Fair magazine used to be like the source of toy news, and every month they would have an exclusive figure. And usually this was a easy repaint of an existing figure, but in sort of, call it either fan demanded colors or colors that were logical, like doing Daredevil here in his original suit. It wasn't like, Disco Skeletor, where it was crazy colors you'd never heard of. It made sense. It was an easy redeco. So why don't they do mail-away figures anymore? Well, for starters, with things like Amazon and Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store and Dorkside Toys, you can kind of just go buy anything you want and it's going to show up in the mail. In fact, you can even pre-order figures now, like this screenshot from Amazon. You don't even need to wait for them to show up at retail or do kind of the toy hunt anymore. You can just point and click, fill your basket, pre-order figures that aren't coming out for 6 months, and you're done. And they're going to show up in the mail. So kind of that joy of running to the mailbox is kind of like every day with Amazon. So what used to be kind of the mail-away figure, I think has now kind of become the Build-A-Figure, where your bonus figure is now coming with a full wave, where if you buy all the figures and getting all the parts, you can build up to a 7th or 8th extra figure, and it's often larger or has more accessories. And in a lot of ways, this has taken the place of the mail-away figure, because now the incentive to buying all the figures, you still get that extra figure, it just doesn't come in the mail. Alright, so let's talk about another way of incentivizing collectors that I actually think is superior to a lot of these. And that's what I call the bonus accessory. We did this a lot in Masters of the Universe Classics. I don't know if we pioneered this or invented this, but I'm really proud we did it. And it was the idea of including accessories with figures that went with a different character. That last shot of the sword with Man-at-Arms, that sword was meant for He-Man. Although Man-at-Arms invented it, so that was kind of the reason he had it. But in this case, with Strobo, that extra head there, that's now disappearing down the bottom of the screen, well, that was for an entirely different character. That was for Zodak. It was not even for Strobo. And I loved doing this because it gave you a new way to display a figure you already had. It kind of made an old figure new again, a figure that you'd had for several years. Now buying a brand new character provided a way to re-display or re-engage with an older figure. And we did this quite a few times, and sometimes it was more successful than others. In the case of New Adventures Skeletor, we included a head for Faker. We tried to tie that into the storyline that he had this head with him to bring the databanks with him, but really the idea was it was a way we could get this head out that we would have liked to do in the original Faker release, but we didn't have any tooling available at the time. He was a New York Comic-Con no tool slot, basically. So that was a way to get the head out. So the battle damaged head. I've noticed that Hasbro with Marvel Legends has started now doing this more and more, and I could not be more excited. I think this is a trend that if every toy company did this, it would really make a lot of collectors happy. So Archangel there comes with that giant claw that now again is slowly disappearing off the bottom of the screen. Well, that claw is not an accessory for Archangel. He does not have a way to use it. It does not clip onto him. He cannot hold it in any way or form. Yeah, he basically has his wings and he has some heads. The claw is for his maker, Apocalypse, who you may have gotten as a Build-A-Figure a few months earlier. And I love this because now, again, here's a new way to engage with the Apocalypse figure. You have a new arm for him that makes him look even cooler. You can display him in new ways. And you got this with a different figure and encouraged you to buy Archangel. Or again, with Professor X, Hasbro did this again really well. Professor X had room to have an additional accessory in his pack besides his hover chair and his Cerebro helmet. So if you had an existing Kingpin figure from the Spider-Man Marvel Legends wave, you could now take this head that came with Professor X, put it onto the Kingpin body. I don't know what you do with the Kingpin's head. I guess put it away someplace, maybe in a baggie. And plus, according to actually the designers at Hasbro, they also intended for you to use the arms, or rather the hands, of the Venom Build-A-Figure. And so by combining all of this together, you could now get a Shadow King figure. And you didn't even have to, like, there was no way to buy him. You had to sort of kit bash him between 3 different toys. Well, actually, an entire Spider-Man line, a Venom figure from a different line, and a head from Professor X. But that's really cool, because while you can't run to your mailbox anymore to look to see about a mail-away figure, or rather this has been replaced by the fact that you can do this every day with Amazon, it's no longer, something special, we've now found new ways to engage fans with long-term rewards. And with tooling getting more and more expensive, it has to be, divided up among figures. And so doing a separate tooled mail-away figure tends to be seen as kind of a waste of tooling, if you will. But that waiting, that payoff for fans still exists. We still are engaged with these huge collections, and finding ways to get extra pieces, extra figures as part of our collection is really thrilling. So kind of my advice for toy companies: when you have a figure that is overstuffed with accessories, yeah, you want all those cool accessories, but there's nothing wrong with throwing in an accessory for a different figure. I think for long-term collectors, this is extremely rewarding, and it tends to have the same emotional payoff as running to the mailbox to get that mail-away figure. Getting an accessory that you didn't expect, that you thought, well, this figure's done, and realizing months later you could get another accessory with another figure. Well, that's very similar, I think, in an emotional sense, to getting these mail-away figures. Getting something unexpected, an unexpected reward for being a long-time purchaser, consumer. It's really cool, and I think it's one of the coolest parts about action figure collecting. If you like this video, if I missed things, if I didn't cover things, let me know in the comments below. I can always do a follow-up. Love a subscription, a thumbs up, and a like, and I'll see you guys around the toy aisles and the internet. Take care.